We've been a little bit short of cash lately, by our own standards, of course. It could be that paying the wages of over 200 players across the league is starting to take its toll on us financially. So we needed to find some new ways to finance our endeavor whilst remaining competitive and playing at the very highest level. So let's get into that. It genuinely staggers me to say this, but for the 6th season in a row, there is a Hungarian side playing in a European final today. So needless to say, after this video, do hop over to stream. I'm not going to tell you who it is. You'll find out there, but that's most likely what we're going to be concentrating on when you find yourself over there. The VODs of all the streams can, of course, be found on the second channel, linked in the description. They go out at 4:15 the day after every stream. But before we get into anything else, let's discuss the Champions League final that we were in last season. Did we make it 2 in 3 years? You're damn bloody right we did. What a performance this was. This was supposed to be a much more complex game than the one we had against Inter 2 years ago, and it very much could have turned out the way, as Savio gave Chelsea an early lead, but honestly, they offered basically nothing. Unfortunately, it's so far away now that we can't actually see the XG story, I don't think. No, just tried to access it. Sadly, I can't get it, but you could see the stats for this game was absolutely crazy. Firstly, though, Darla, of all people, Montiel with the cross, and Darla, from a throw-in sort of, just randomly ended up in the box and headed us level before half-time. Then, in the second half, we made a few changes, and we just threw it away with this game. It was absolutely spectacular. The red card for Tanguy and Yazoo really did make a difference, though. It was a straight red, two-footed lunge, one of our players going through on goal, easily a red card, and then after that we just took over. First it was Navarro, then it was Labros to wrap the game up, but honestly we could have had 4 or 5 in this game. It was an absolute domination. Chelsea didn't have a single shot in the second half of this football match, so it wasn't like it was just the red card that did it, because the red card was in like the 70-something minute, if I recall correctly. It was like 72, perhaps 74th minute. We scored almost immediately after that. We were dominating them up to that point, so it is now 2 Champions League wins for MTK Budapest, and well, it's just exactly what we wanted here, and we needed to really build on that this season to keep things going. But now back to present day, as season 15 of Building a Nation with MTK Budapest, despite all that success, was setting itself up to be one of struggle. We were losing one of our best years on the points coefficient, and we knowing that with 7 teams in Europe, it was going to be extremely difficult for us to even come close to matching it, and we could potentially lose as much ground that could push us down as far as 7th, with other teams and nations doing extremely well in the interim. It was going to be a very, very tough year. But before any of that good stuff, we're going to get stuck into transfers. We've had a slightly different transfer strategy this year, given that our scouting has become a little bit more stretched out, and we really are trying to focus on pinpointing some absolute gems, but we've also focused on a brand new transfer strategy over this year and the one that we've got coming up to try and drum up a little bit of extra cash, because it's always difficult to drum up cash when you're such a massive team already. I know, first world problems, right? The first of those is Lautaro Ojeda. He's gone to Benfica for £20 million. We just needed a little bit of extra cash. Our plan was that Contavrakis or Yeboah would almost certainly go in the summer. That was the plan, but there was just no bids around because we're so bid now. Most of the time we don't get a lot of bids on our players from other clubs. That's just the way it is, and that can actually cause problems. But then Benfica said, we'll give you £20 million for Lautaro, and I bit their hand off. We had other players that I wanted to put in that position as well. It just felt like the right time for him to move on and find himself a new club. So 20 million, easy mate. But then it got better, as on the final day of the main summer transfer window, we were struggling a little bit. We'd managed to sign a few players, but obviously with the lack of funds coming in, it was tough. Real Madrid plopped a non-negotiable 46 million, rising to 50, bid for Rivadavia, a player that we'd signed to turn into a right back, and it just never really worked out for him here. 25 appearances in the league over 3 seasons just simply wasn't enough, and when they offered us that kind of money, it was impossible to turn down. So thanks for the £50 million, Real Madrid. And then coming towards the end of the January transfer window, Bayern put a bid in on Labros Contavrakis. I believe it was non-negotiable. Oh no, we managed to bid them up a tiny little bit, and we knew that there just wasn't probably going to be a lot more room for him in the team with some of the players we had coming through. We wanted to make room, and we felt that then would be the perfect time. We'd sign him for 11 million, so he moves on to Bayern Munich for £51 million. Another, what's that, £40 million profit on him as well. So this is all good money, but you're thinking that's not particularly different to what you were doing before, and that is correct. That is not the new strategy that we've been undertaking, as we haven't had a chance to see that fully come to fruition yet, but you'll see what that strategy is when you look at the players we've brought in. First of whom was John Jensen. He isn't actually one of those players. He's just an absolutely insanely talented young Danish player. 2.5 million from FC Copenhagen. He's out on loan at Paxi in the 2nd division. He's played a really nice number of games for them this year, already worth 13 to 16 million. What a lovely young player. Next was a bit more towards our new strategy. This is Diego Hidalgo, coming in on, well, a £16 million move from Boca Juniors, but looking at the attributes that he had, I felt that there was no way that he wouldn't be worth more money here. So what our new strategy has become is to try to find undervalued players who are more like 26 plus that we can bring in for a season or two and hopefully flip for massive money. Now, Diego probably only would go for something like 30 to 40 million, but that would still be a £25 million profit, provided the wages aren't too absurd. And as much as it's £71,000 a week, not even in the top 5 wages at the club. I just think based on his attributes, he would be fantastic. Next up was a step back towards our old strategy. This is Kevin Griffiths, or as we've nicknamed him, the most boring human being on earth. This comes solely down to him being described as the next Michael Owen. He doesn't like films, just doesn't like them. Point being, he's very good though. 19 years old, signed from Stoke for £17 million. Obviously, I think it's 11 rising to 17. He spent the season on loan at Kexmet in the second half of the year, and 3 goals, 3 assists for them. I think there's a bright future for this young man, and I think a future England international almost certainly. And now to the first of our new strategy properly. Chris Smith, England international as of this season, 1 cap for England, signed on a free transfer from Manchester United. Now, albeit he's only 24. The point being, we're trying to find extremely, as I said, undervalued players that have been released by Premier League sides that are still incredibly good and for whatever reason have decided not to extend their contracts. The idea basically came to us when we nearly got Kane Fullerlove from Bayern last year, and we figured there could be a lot of money to be made just by simply bringing in these free transfers who aren't on massive wages in the grand scheme of things, especially English players, because their value is enormous because English clubs want them for homegrown status, and then hopefully selling them back in a few years. The first of those was Chris Smith. Signed him for free, £21,000 a week. He's worth 18 to 21 million. He's on, what's his comp? Yeah, he's got 3 more years left on his deal. I think next summer he could easily be a £20 million sale, and it's just about us stringing those types of deals together. But this year, been very pleased with him. 12 starts, 7 goals and 9 assists for Chris Smith is actually extremely impressive for a player that I thought would be mostly a bit part, because there's one other player that we got on a free transfer this summer who has genuinely impressed me, and this is he. This is Ian Robinson, signed on a free transfer from Aston Villa. No idea why he wanted to leave. This feels more like a kind of I'm running my contract down to get a big move type of move, because we've never seen Villa in Europe in this save, which would suggest it's almost like a Grealish type situation perhaps. And instead of moving to another English side, he's come over to Hungary. 23 England caps for Ian Robinson as well, so a true quality player. 7 goals, 12 assists this year, has started for us in the Champions League alone. He's genuinely been fantastic this season. He has such a great eye for a pass. I think the 15 passing, 16 vision really helps with that. I still think this is going to make us a lot of money and allow us to keep this loan farm. If we can just find a few of these guys every single season, bring them in, not on massive wages, and just keep flipping, that's going to hopefully keep us afloat. And there's 2 more players I want to show you that are joining us this summer who are in that very same vein. But now back to normal signings. First up is Leandro Mendes, 27 years old, £3.2 million. He is another signing out of the book of Leandro Martin Santos because his attributes are fantastic. Ignore the star ratings. We really liked his attributes, and we figured he would do a fantastic job of giving us some cover in the centre-back spot, and for £3 million, really couldn't complain. And it was much the same story with Santiago Lopez. 4.3 million. The star ratings just simply weren't there, but looking at his attributes, I knew there was a good player here. He felt to me like the peak loan farmer type of player, and I think he's proven that in abundance this season. We brought him in for £4 million, loaned him straight to Debrecen, which was actually the plan because they'd had to give Kevin Page back to us because he refused to come out on loan. We immediately replaced him with Lopez, and he's been fantastic for them this season. 12 goals, including 9 in the Europa League. He was the top scorer in the Europa League this season for Debrecen, and that, to me, was worth every penny. Next up is probably the biggest waste of money this season. Now, I'm not saying he isn't a good player, Ismakis Theocharakos, but £10 million is a lot for a player like this, who doesn't even have that 5-star potential, which is crazy considering we signed a guy from PAOK last season, Nesteros, for like 700k, and he's better. So it's really strange. But I said there was a few future transfers I wanted to show you as well, which is what we're actually going to do here. There's some others as well, but you'll see those next season. There's a couple I want to highlight, including a goalkeeper that is going to give you more insight into what we're planning this summer. First free signing is Sam Ingram. He's joining us on a free transfer from Liverpool. This man is joining us for free. He's not going to be on 110k a week either. He's going to be back onto like normal wages like the rest of our squad. I can't believe that he's leaving Liverpool. I think it's just a lack of football has finally got to him. He's got 15 England caps for crying out loud. Yet another England international is joining us. And I think, again, he could be an absolute monster, frankly. I'm so excited. And in that same vein as well, this is Max Bainbridge, 30-year-old England striker. He was the guy that scored the hat-trick against Hallidash for Leeds in the Conference League final a few years ago. He will also be joining us on a free transfer on, I think he's actually going to be taking a wage cut to join us and come play in the Champions League for us. So these are the types of players that are going to be joining us. Don't worry, we've got loads of space in the squad for them, which is the benefit of this as well. And it just means that there's going to be so much money hopefully made down the line with bringing in some of these guys. Bit of experience in the team as well. Not that I really think that matters all that much, but I think it would just allow us a few interesting sales. Even if we only got like 20 million for some of these guys in a couple of seasons, it's just lovely money that keeps us ticking over. But now, the goalkeeping situation. So, as you're going to see later in today's video, we've had a bit of trouble with our goalkeeper this season. Now, it's not the first time that we've had trouble with Portier. Despite the game basically telling us he's a world-class goalkeeper, he does things that genuinely would not look out of place in non-league. Again, you'll see more about that later. So with that in mind, we've been looking up a replacement for him, and then we found the perfect man. And this is he. This is Mladen Gacic, an absolute monster of a player. Came from Čukarički, went to Benfica, and was, I mean, look at that. Only 87 conceded in 180 appearances in the league for Benfica. That is ridiculous. And you might look at a player like that and think, yeah, he's very good. How much did you pay? 10 million. £10 million from Mladen Gacic. Now, basically, this is the story with him. We noticed that he was exploring his options. We were interested, so were a load of other teams. It then went to FRT, meaning going to be leaving on a free. So when it was optional for us to be able to talk to him about his contract, we tried to do so. And then he said he was keeping his options open. Meanwhile, was still able to discuss terms with other clubs, just not us. Now, eventually he turned down Manchester United and Chelsea and other clubs, so he actually did snub them. But it's annoying to me that they were able to negotiate with him and we weren't. But in the meantime, I've been bidding random amounts on him from Benfica to try and get them to sell him to us early so that we could pay a little bit of money and, you know, not have to worry about other clubs like gazumping us on him, basically. Particularly as he'd actually snubbed Manchester United the summer before in a £78 million deal where Benfica could have got nearly 80 million, but he turned them down. So then eventually, after many months of trying, Benfica had finally realized that his contract was going lower and lower and lower and they were going to lose him for free. Finally were willing to negotiate with us a bit more sensibly. They were still wanting £80 million for him with 2 months left on his contract. But finally, it came good, and eventually we were able to negotiate a deal where £10 million up front, there's £8 million in clauses and whatnot. But honestly, that kind of money for a goalkeeper of this repute is absolute. He's a £100 million goalkeeper, easily. And the best thing about this as well is he'll now come in, we'll then be able to move on our current goalkeeper for probably in excess of £100 million and come out with a £90 million profit. Oh, can anybody say stonks? Now, tactically this season, things have remained mostly the same from our main tactics, but of course, we always like to try some fun things out when we get a few league games towards the end of the season. And, well, this is the monstrosity that we're currently rocking at the moment. I don't really have an explanation for it, although if you do exclude the goalkeeper from it, it's almost a palindromic tactic, which is kind of fun. It plays extremely fun football. It does concede a lot of goals, but it also scores a lot of goals. We've had a 5-4, a 6-3 and an 8-2 in 4 of our 5 last matches towards the end of the season. So there's lots of goals in this team. So as you can tell, it's a very serious tactic, and we are definitely, as a group, the next Pep Guardiola. To the surprise of no one, of course, we did win the league. Only 86 points this season, but you'll notice that Budapest definitely fell off a little bit from having a record finish last season in terms of points. And I also wanted to show you the second tier to show you that Girmot and Vasas are the teams that return to the top flight. Once again, Spartacus, who've led the season basically the entire year, once again fall short of promotion. But that's not the real story. The real story is that 4th place is a Lagerseg, where you'll note that, you know, 79 points, very close, plus 38 goal difference. Top scorer in the league, Antonio Barrera, an AI-managed club, scored 49 league goals. He is literally the Hungarian second division equivalent of Erling Haaland, but somehow even better. It's ridiculous. He, by himself, scored more goals than 11 of the other teams in this division. 11 teams! That's more than half of the division. But now we move to Europe, and, well, that's the real cojones this season. So let's talk about how we've got on in Europe. Started off about as perfect as a game can. We went behind early on through França, but then Tex-Mex and Jose Luis Castillo getting us back into this match and pulled off arguably very fortunate result at Anfield here. I think a draw would have been much fairer, but we managed to get away with it, and we will absolutely take that, as we then took that form into a home game against Lyon. 3-0 victory, very cushy. Silva, Tex-Mex, Patrice in there as well. Bobby Tree, Mr. Penn, could have been more. Great result. Then things got silly. We went to Sweden and put 9 goals past Malmö. 9. I think it was 7-0 at halftime. Terranova, 3 goals for Castillo. Silva grabbed a brace as well. Tex-Mex with 1. 2 more goals for Hidalgo. 9-0 in Sweden. We've been on it this year. Then we travelled to the Netherlands and, well, only scraped a 1-0 victory against PSV Eindhoven. We could have easily scored more, as you can see, but it's the way we scored our goal that is a little bit weird. Gets a... it's going to be off the bar. Oh, no way. So, yeah, I'm sure it'd be unlikely if we saw a goal like that in the same season again, though. That would be weird, right? Then it was, again, a slightly fortuitous result at home to Tottenham. 2 goals for Castillo. Then they got on back through Marlon Caprice. Spurs had nothing in this game to offer, basically. But their goal was essentially worth, like, 1.6 XG because it was a really close-range shot, followed up with another really close-range shot. The first one didn't go in, the second one did. So it's a little bit skewed, but regardless, it's still, they were unfortunate not to get something, I think. We then finally did get our comeuppance as things sort of turned around for us here, though, sadly, as Manchester City through Daniel Andrews took the lead. We'd had a penalty miss through Velázquez. I don't know why he took it either. I have no idea why he took it. Montiel was sent off in this game, and it really just was not going right for us, sadly. They went 2-0 up with Haaland and Andrews. Silva got on back, but it wasn't enough. We played bloody well considering 10 men. Just wasn't our day. But then we were back after Christmas with the huge goal scoring again. 7-0, a 9-0 and a 7-0 in the same year. Robinson, Velázquez with a brace from defensive midfield. Navarro in there as well. Castillo, and of course Tex-Mex and Carpenu to add to that as well. But in fact, we scored 7 goals off of an XG of 1.91. It's genuinely amazing. And then it got even better as we put 6 past Sevilla in the next game. Navarro with 1 goal. 3 more for Castillo. 1 for Silva. 1 for Montiel. 6-1 in the end. And again, just massively overperforming our XG in the Champions League. But it's just nice to see that happen. Although I do kind of wish that maybe we wouldn't do this and would just sort of use this in some of the knockout matches to get an extra goal where perhaps we didn't deserve one occasionally. That would be really nice, rather than it always seemingly being the other way around. But I would say over the course of the group, we had a fair share of luck in games, but also had a little bit of unlucky in the City one. It kind of goes roundabouts, but I think we were slightly more lucky than unlucky. But all that ended up leaving us second in the Champions League. Now, obviously, you'd think that in any normal season, we with our goal difference of plus 26 should be top, but no, because obviously in the latest patch, you guys have access to, I don't because I started this save originally, we still get punished for the fact that Barcelona beat Arsenal, and somehow that means we get to be worse than Barcelona because reasons. Looking further down though, you'll see both Kijvara and Budapest both qualify for the knockouts again. Kijvara's wins coming against Benfica, Shakhtar and PSV Eindhoven. But look at that, 4-0 against PSV and 3-0 against Shakhtar. And Budapest's wins came against Real Madrid, Milan and Olympiacos. They beat Real Madrid with a 93rd minute goal from Joshua De Bruyne, who is joining them permanently in the summer. And that was enough for them to qualify fairly comfortably in the end, actually. 12 points on the board. But now back to us and how we progressed for the rest of the Champions League. Because obviously we, as a result of all that, got to skip around, but then our reward for all that was to face off against 16th place Liverpool, who of course we'd already played once and won at Anfield. Still, not the draw we could have wanted, because they were probably the toughest team that we could have got at that point. As then this happened. This is just an exercise in futility, to be honest. Let's just have a look at the goals, shall we? Oh, what on earth? What?
Nobody asked you here but race!
So there was that, which was then followed by this. Right, keeper, please don't do something stupid. Oh, fuck off, FM. So I guess that evens out a little bit for the season, but the first one, my God. And then the third one, honestly, I don't have a clip of it, but it was just a ball lumped over the top. The defender jumps for the ball. No reason why he'd missed the header. He just misses it at random. Player goes through on goal. Keeper comes out, doesn't do anything. 3-0. Just one of those days, really. Like, going into stoppage time nearly at 1-0, we could have still done something, but those two late goals from Valia just absolutely killed us. And it was like throw the laptop out the window type of game, really. And we knew that we had an insane task in the second leg, which sadly, despite actually playing very well, we simply weren't up to it. Liverpool just came to defend, and I don't even really blame them on this one. Chris Smith's goal, where he chested it down and volleyed it home in the 79th minute, wasn't enough. We actually ended up playing our 5-star trek for the second half in this game, just to try to throw some bodies forward, but it wasn't enough. We had our moments, but we did still win for the coefficient. But to go out in the round of 16 after I think reaching the semis or better in each of the last 3 years was a real disappointment for us, particularly as we were watching so much cool stuff going on elsewhere. Yeah, if there was ever a game that was going to make me uninstall, it would be this one, my lord. But that's fine, because we have other Hungarian teams to concentrate on. We turned our attention to them. As their rewards for finishing where they did, Kijvara drew against AC Milan, and Liverpool were Budapest's rival for the next game. And this is what happened. You'll see Kijvara losing 1-0 at home to Milan, but look at that. Budapest 3, Liverpool 2. Joshua De Bruyne with a hat-trick. I mean, obviously, Valia scored a couple of goals, but my God, the fact that Budapest beat Liverpool, they beat Real Madrid and Liverpool this season, they really are. If anyone's going to do something in this save, it's going to be them. Unfortunately, in the return leg, it wasn't quite to be, as Liverpool humped them 3-0. Milan with the 1-0 win as they both go out. But think about it like this. If Budapest had won, it would have been Budapest versus us in the next round of the Champions League, which would have been absolutely spectacular. But now we turn our attention to the Europa League, where, of course, we had more teams in it this year, which is always fun. And oh boy, was it fun. Ferencváros finally remember what it was like to win in Europe. And this is genuinely really impressive from them, considering how bad they've been in the Champions League over the last few seasons. To come 8th in the Europa League phase is really, really solid for them. 5 wins out of 8 as well, beating Stabæk, Hertha, Ludogorets, Brugge, Sturm Graz. Just really solid results across the board, allowing them to sneak in there on the final day. But even looking further down, you see Debrecen coming 15th. They managed to sneak into the top half, which is always very important. Wins against Valencia, Shamrock Rovers, Sturm Graz away, and Osijek. And even Molfehovar, who have started to fall off a little bit in the league, as you'll have seen from them not qualifying for Europe at all this season, did still manage to get 20th place. Only 3 victories against Maccabi Haifa, Shamrock Rovers and Hajduk Split at home, but they got enough to get through. Molfehovar would play Hertha Berlin in their first round of knockouts, and Debrecen would face off against Antwerp, a side who have done well in Europe in the past. But this is what happened. Debrecen with a 3-0 win away from home in Belgium. Lopez and Lukic with the goals. Sadly, Molfehovar just weren't quite up to the task, losing 3-2 at home to Hertha. It's a shame. In the second leg, though, Debrecen did nearly bottle the whole damn thing. Lopez and Archer's goals really bailing them out into a 5-3 win on aggregate. Sadly, Molfehovar went out with a bit of a whimper, but at least Debrecen went through to the next round, where they and Ferencváros would face off against Europe's, well, I guess, second finest. And what a start they got off to. Debrecen with 2 goals from Evan Polden allowed them to sneak a 2-0 victory over Slavia Prague. And there's Ferencváros with a 1-0 win away at Monaco. What a result that is, giving them a lead to take back to Hungary. And we just felt, yes, this is the year that finally stuff happens in the Europa League. And then we got quite the shock in the second leg as well. Ferencváros lost 2-0 at home. after extra time and sadly went out to Monaco despite having the away advantage. Just one of those things, really. Debrecen took a 2-2 draw, though, away at Slavia Prague, and at least they reached the quarterfinals where Puskás was sent off as well. But them in the quarterfinals was super, super pleasing for us. Sadly, though, they then lost 2-0 at home to Villarreal. But then, remarkably, in the second leg, they actually threw themselves into a 3-0 lead in Spain with Polden, Schermo, and Lopez. But sadly, it wasn't enough, as Edgar and Ferris Bueller, that's not his name, that's actually Arda Güler. It's a meme for chat. Don't worry about it. Needless to say, they very nearly pulled the whole thing around, but they just collapsed at the worst possible moment for them. Such a shame, but they did a bloody good job. But that leaves you, of course, thinking, so, okay, who got to the final then? Well, I think you kind of already know. So Haladash, the perennial Conference League masters, once again, 4th in the group, 5 wins out of 6, just doing what they do. They beat Igman, which is a team we'd never seen play in Europe before, Neftchi Baku, Stjarnan, Atromitos, and Lech Poznan. They're just comfortably better than all these teams. The only team they lost to was Braga, who regularly win all 6 matches in the Conference League. And their reward for this was a draw against Dynamo Kiev. And they went to Kiev, won 2-1, Zivkovic and Kamil Kraus with the goals, giving them a great thing to take back home, where they still made bloody hard work of it with a 3-3 draw in the end, winning it in extra time with that goal from Aschauer in penalties. Zivkovic has been carrying them because he's genuinely world class. Like, this is their striker now that they have on loan from us. 29 caps for Bosnia, 17 goals. At times he's been up to 4-star current ability this season. Their reward was a draw away at Atromitos of Greece, and they went 2-0 up there. Peralta and Jalilu in the first leg. And in the second leg, things got mad. As you'll see, West Ham 4-1 up. This is about to get ridiculous. So second leg, Real Sociedad hump West Ham 6-0. 7-4 out in aggregate. Stade Rennais put 5 past Apple on Limassol, and Haladash put 6 past Atromitos for an 8-1 victory in the quarterfinals. Zivkovic, Salah, Jalilu, and Edvaldo, all players who were on loan from us, bagging all 6 goals for them. And what a first leg it was. A 4-3 victory with Jalilu, Peralta, Chipici, and Bakhtiari with the goals. But that's a really tough result to take back to France. Only a 1-goal lead. Very, very difficult. But they only went to France. And who else but Haris Zivkovic to score the winning goal to send them to their second Conference League final of the save. They lost to Leeds United a few seasons ago. They will try again against Real Sociedad. I don't know if it's going to be any easier, honestly, but I guess that just means that we're going to sign Real Sociedad striker on a free in a couple of years, because that's just how this works. But for the 6th season in a row, Hungary have a side in a European final. Can they be the first team outside of us to finally win one in this save? If they do, there's a chance that it could save us on the coefficients. As on the year, we've actually been very solid. Nice 5th spot, 18 points on the board for us, which is really good considering 7 teams in Europe. We've got progressively better for every season we've had to 7 teams in Europe. It's made a huge difference. The problem has been basically losing that 19-point season, and with the Netherlands sort of catching us, but having quite a poor year of their own. Portugal has been the big problem. Germany have had a woeful time of it this year and have fallen off the radar entirely, which is mad. We will go above Germany this season, but unfortunately, France will leapfrog both of us, as will Portugal, because France have put up 22 points this year, and Portugal have done 16. I think there's still an outside chance. I'm still not sure of this myself. If they win the final, there might be a chance that we finish above Portugal. We could either stay 5th this season, or we could potentially fall to 6th despite all of that, with Germany going down as far as 7th this season, so expect them to be good in a couple of years too. It's getting ridiculously competitive amongst those teams. Literally going to gloss over the youth intake this year. Literally nothing in it. We're still waiting to see if we can generate any kind of quality player ever again. But here's hoping, right? Now, last year, I completely forgot to do player stats, and I'm so sorry for that, because I know this is interesting to a lot of people, including myself. This year, there is way more interesting stuff in it, though, as you'll see. I mean, Castillo, what a season. 30 goals for him is really, really solid, considering we spread the love around a lot more this year. 30 goals and 10 assists, 40 goal contributions is superb. Bobby Tree, 27 goals, but 15 assists for Bobby Tree. Remarkable. 42 goal contributions. Arguably the best player this season. Bobby ended up with how many? 22 goals and 12 assists in 23 starts. 34 goal contributions in 23 starts domestically. I mean, he's our backup striker. Look at him. He's our backup striker. So that says a lot. Tex-Mex as well. 16 goals, 19 assists for a 35 goal contribution season. Texi's just an absolute god. Silva. What a year. 21 assists. That's like Malero levels from a few years ago. 34 goal contributions in all competitions for him as well. Navarro, who's played a little bit of different roles this year, still with the 11 goals, 8 assists. It's fantastic. Patrice with 9 goals, matching his total from last year. The sad thing is, Patrice had 9 goals by like Christmas, and he hasn't scored since. And it's such a shame. I was hoping double digits from him this year. Malero, you'll notice, now at 33, just less games this year, has still played some important matches. Did come off the bench against Liverpool to play his last Champions League match for the club. He will be leaving this summer at the age of 33. We tried to get a sale for him last summer. It just wasn't happening, so he will go down as a massive legend for this club. So as for the loan farm, it's taking a bit of a step down this season, but there is a reason for that. We're down to minus 111 players out on loan, which I think is 145 out. Still a lot, but not as many as we had before. It's still ridiculous, though. When you look at some of the 52 goals for Pereira is insane. We've got players on this list that are worth £60 million. It's actually ridiculous. Look at the number of 5-star players now. that are on this list, and it's just fantastic. And you might say, well, why not bring them back and they could do a job for you? Yeah, they could. They absolutely could. Like, Mihail could do a job for us. The issue is, the job he'd do for us and the effect that he would have is nowhere near the effect that he is having on a club like Budapest, and that's why we don't bring these guys back. We keep them there as long as possible. They can't afford to buy them off of us because of the amount of money they're worth, but what they can do is afford to have them on loans from us for as long as physically possible, and that's why it works so well with the loan farm. 105 million in the bank, so you might say, well, where's all the financial troubles? So most of this money has come in this month, as you'll see here. Most of that is new sponsorship stuff. 41 million in sponsorship income has come in just this month. We were down to like 60 million, which for us is not that much considering how much our outgoing is 2 million a week. Like, in a month, we're spending 8 million on wages alone. So if there's no real income in that period, it can go down bloody quickly. And the reason for that is we have our new sponsor. Now, I think I told you last time that the stadium sponsor had disappeared because of us moving stadiums. Well, we've got a new one, and it's worth even more money. 15 years, £300 million sponsorship for the Bane.com arena, which is 20 mil a season. We're now up to 41 million a year in sponsorship. But the aims for this season coming up, of course, is going to be to hopefully have Saladash win the Conference League to get us started perfectly, find some new absolute gems, maybe some new free transfers, and just kind of go from there. I'm super excited about this season as we head into season 16 of Building a Nation. I still reckon we can get up to season 30, and someone in chat has actually achieved getting this exact club with this exact save to number 1, which means I know it is possible, and I won't stop until it happens, damn it. So join us over there for that. If you have enjoyed this, of course, drop a like. That'd be superb. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. That'd be gorgeous as well. I've got a Career Resurrection coming out for you very soon, and it's a collaborative one. So that is going to be fun, very, very fun, with another FM creator, and another video coming out next week, which is a little bit strange. I mean, not as strange as the Everest one, but not that far off it as well. So I'll see you guys very soon. Hold your gun, capybara, bye-bye.